So for a lot of people who watch my channel, you know I love my Final Fantasy XIV, and that's not going anywhere. In fact, my next few guild making playlist videos have been something I've been spending a lot of time working on and was actually planned to release today. But I wanted to take a single video for now to address the absolute madness that I've seen, and that's my feeling on it at least. To be frank, what I saw really concerned me, and I hope that you can all forgive me for this personally indulging video. Specifically, I want to talk about some of the brand new changes to Blizzard's online privacy policy. And it's weird. It's really weird in my opinion. It is concerning enough to make even me actually speak up for once. So before I say another word, if you like this video, please annihilate that like button with a very weird online privacy policy update and drop a real ID on that subscribe button. But jokes and self-plugs aside, I really do want to say before I say another word that I am not a lawyer. I'm not going to pretend to be a lawyer. I never want to be a lawyer. I'll leave that type of headache to the actual lawyers in my family who know I have not and will not consult for this video in any regard. This is not legal advice, period. Now with that vibrantly clear disclaimer going on, I want to talk about this weird update just on a real level. So I play a lot of Blizzard games and have for a very long time now. Hearthstone and Overwatch in particular have been major mainstays in my gaming cycle since they were released. So I honestly just opened up my clients because I just want to have an easy day relaxing, and this week has honestly been genuinely devastating personally. And I am avoiding talking about that in this video, lest I mess up this recording, but I just want to take a bit of time and chill. But this privacy update that, yes, I did click agree on, did bring up a lot of fears in me as someone who is a genuine victim of non-consensual R, which I'm sure everyone can probably piece together what that is, but YouTube does not like me saying that, so it's all going to be bleeped out from here. So to highlight some of the more interesting parts of this update in the documentation Blizzard has, Blizzard may also have message boards, forums, and or chat areas where users can exchange ideas and communicate with one another. When posting to a message board, forum, or chat area, the information being made publicly available online, the user does so at his or her own risk. For certain forums, anyone posting or replying to a post may be doing so using their real ID, that is, their full first and last name. So for anyone who was wondering what a real ID is, there you go. And that last line, that for certain forums, anyone posting or replying to a post may be doing so using their real ID, that is their full first and last name, that is really problematic, at least in my opinion. Another thing that really scares me is if your personal information is posted on one of our community forums, you may contact us at dataprivacy@blizzard.com to request removal. Sometimes we may not be able to remove your personal information, in which case we will let you know if we cannot do so and why. Just let that sink in, just let that marinate for a second. What? And I mean, I'm not trying to be alarmist, but it's like, what? And then you have other, I'm just gonna say two more excerpts from it, but we may share your information with vendors Blizzard engages to perform services for Blizzard. For example, platform providers, media partners, ticket sales providers, merchandise vendors, survey providers, billing, customer services report, information technology hardware and software. In these situations, a written contract between Blizzard and the vendor shall control such disclosure. Again, that last line really being the notable one, I'd say. In these situations, a written contract between Blizzard and the vendor shall control such disclosure. What about me? What about me? And then they say other things like, with any business, your personal information is also an asset of Blizzard and will become part of our normal business records. As such, we may also disclose your personal information to a third party if we decide to sell a line of business to that third party. Excellent. So there's a lot to unpack here, but for the forums part, I'm at least having that come vibrantly flashing in my mind. It's you can literally say that I'm triggered right now from reading that, and I mean, sure, whatever, label me as triggered, but I am. So the question that people who are not so familiar with the history will ask is, did Blizzard really put real names on forum posts? Yes. Yes, they did. In 2010. And no, I am not trolling. This has had many various articles detailing it in much more depth than I'll get into this video, but probably the most notable example was that the standard player was forced with real first name and last name to post, but not staff. This ended up in what is called the Bashiok situation, at least that's what I'm calling it, where there was a staff member who went by the alias Bashiok, who essentially had all of their information just splattered online in the most brutally unkind way that you could possibly imagine, if I'm being blunt. It's really messed up stuff, which unquestionably showed the power of one's real name being used to track down a person's information, which can lead to very sensitive information. And as someone who has unfortunately gone through the joy of being followed and stuff and treated very poorly by people, we'll say that, when I was younger, much younger, that information is really disgustingly bad in the hands of some people. Ultimately, though, can you remove your data? It seems so. I did find a page in support that seems to be able to delete all of the data. The reality is, I'm a lawyer, and I honestly have no idea what can of worms this does or does not get one out of, so this is all I could find. What does it actually amount to? I don't know. But just for a taste from a layman perspective, because again, not a legal expert, some of the different concerns one can have when you're touching data includes big names like customer protection laws like FTC Act, Graham-Leach-Bailey Act, Health Insurance, Portability and Accountability Act, sorry, the acronyms are just to me, but you have Telephone Consumer Protection Act, you have CAN spam, you have COPPA, you have Fair Credit Reporting Act, you have Electronic Communications Privacy Act, and I'm disgustingly sure that I have forgot a ton. There is just a lot to go on. And ultimately, I can say Dunning-Kruger has not visited me in any way on here, and I am very aware enough that I know nothing. So, again, don't read into it. I don't know law, period. But that's all stuff. Like, that specific legal jargon is not stuff I want to talk about as much, and I instead want to talk about my perspective as a player of Blizzard's games for years and years and years now, and how I feel massively concerned with this privacy update as a consumer of gaming products that they offer. So now let's deep dive on my perspective, and to be honest, this is going to get deep and problematic, and if you don't want deep and problematic, I thank you sincerely. I really do thank you for viewing, because this is going to get messy. Because when it comes to someone posting my name online for X and my to find, I'm pretty concerned, and I do question the motives greatly. And another thing I think is valuable for me to contribute to the discussion from my perspective, because my perspective I do not see people talking about, and I think that just judging from everything that I've seen and read, that it will be a unique perspective. So I want to talk about a few points in this video, and when I approach a problem, I like to view it from multiple angles and to really get a good history and a good feel on it. But when people talk about being phobic of this sort of policy, I've found that the common argument to people concerned about it is to immediately label people concerned about having their first name and last name out there as some terribly evil, nefarious online troll or closeted homophobe or someone that judges others by the color of their skin. That there should exist some kind of social responsibility where if you are a terrible person and you do exhibit your free speech, well then, honey, you're gonna feel the repercussions of that free speech. As we fixate on your cancellation. Likewise, this runs into issues with jobs, this runs into issues with friends, family, financial instability. It is huge. And ultimately, the goal and motivation for this, from a more like trying to look at it from the best angle possible, why they'd want real ID, is under the very misguided delusion that having real life first names and last names is going to somehow lead to a civil discourse, or more civil discourse, which I will quickly refer to the outcome of the 2010 Bashak situation to say that that was a complete and utter failure. But the core motivation here is inherently, and in a good light, social justice will bind someone's personal real-life stability and security towards the words they say online, inherently holding you accountable for your free speech, which is still free speech, but you're being held accountable for it. So when you say that mage number 1337 sucks at DPSing and needs to learn to play, well, you'd better hope that mage number 1337 isn't the wife of your boss, or that's going to be one rough job until termination. Which I should say, or pivoting, as a huge proponent of restorative justice and rehabilitation, cancel culture is against every single fiber of my being. And I say that knowing that there are some pretty terrible people out there, which I'm going to say some examples in this video. And even when I'm talking about the man who non-consensually me in real life, and I mean twice in one go because once was apparently not enough, I genuinely still truly, in fact maybe even more so because of that, believe in restorative justice, even for that man. To destroy a person completely and utterly means that there's no room for improvement, no ability to come back, there's no redemption arc. To live in a world so black and white, where you cannot remove the sins of the past, where you cannot evolve, me as a person and me as a scientist, that is not how I want to view this world. I can't handle that kind of narrow worldview. I want to think as we all grow older and wiser that we continuously evolve. But moving on from that viewpoint, there does exist a legal system for a reason, a very important reason. And so a little bit of anthropology here. Ooh, we're getting deep on this. So back in 1700 BC, there existed the Code of Hammurabi that stood about like 7 feet tall and was placed on various locations where the public could view them. And these were like stone cutouts, which I'm going to try and have a screenshot on the screen. And this included many extreme laws that you would consider very wild these days, such as if he break another man's bone, his bone shall be broken. Or if a man knock out the teeth of his equal, his teeth shall be knocked out, a tooth for a tooth. And if a man strike a freeborn woman so that she lose her unborn child, he shall pay 10 shekels for her loss. Little to say. Obviously needed a little bit of work. But the cool thing about this is that this was one of the first true legal systems that we can date, and a cycle of retributive law that was introduced into a world of revenge systems and codes of honor. Instead of retaliation on them and their family that would spiral into an endless blood feud, you would instead consult the Code of Hammurabi, and then you would have ideally an impartial third party read the law and administer justice as the code would say. Which, to be super reminding people, is that perfect? No, but it is better. But let's go years before the Code of Hammurabi. Revenge systems of honor are chaotic, bloody, and maybe unending. Probably the most typical example of this is codes of honor and alpha male posturing, where puffing up one's chest and getting all deep-voiced and mad and showcasing your fury is meant to envision that you're strong, and hence not vulnerable. Because if you exhibit vulnerability and a lack of strength, then there was not much to fear of you or to respect. You were exploitable. Today, though, this posturing is often read as toxic masculinity. So you are caught in a situation, say you're caught in a situation where someone in your guild convinces your girlfriend into cheating on you. Well then, it's clearly your job to defend your honor and get mad at him and start yelling in Discord, and then fight in person next time you see each other at Wendy's. Sir, this is a Wendy's. Or on the reverse side, that someone made a forum post that you don't like on the current state of Balanced Druid's Eclipse system and how they're going to track you down with your real ID, first name and last name, and do everything in their power to get you fired from your job and make you financially unstable and unable to provide for yourself or your family, and probably fail to pay the mortgage, lose the house, lose the car, and run into complete financial bankruptcy. Yeah. I can't even say that right. But the thing is that a large portion of cancel culture to me seems even more regressive than the Code of Hammurabi, which even in that case is retributive and so balancing the scales with punishment and equivalent punishment, rather than working to restore and improve the state of things, where the goal of restorative justice has been defined as, and I'm just referencing this online, is restorative justice is commonly defined as an approach to justice that focuses on addressing the harm caused by a crime while holding the offender responsible for their actions by providing an opportunity for the parties directly affected by the crime, victims, offenders, and communities to identify and address their needs in the aftermath of a crime. And as someone who is just a part of this and restorative justice in general, I find restorative justice, at least my personal definition, is it means less about seeking eye for an eye revenge and destroying someone for the wrongs they did. Because oftentimes one wrong and then you mirror it, it's just going to result in so much destruction. And it's more about seeking an ability for both parties, the victim and the person that victimized them, to learn, grow, and move on in the best way possible, to try and make everything better, to genuinely try and fix the wound. Now, I could easily make this video into a 50-part series, as in my leisure time I like to read a lot of books and policies and a lot on restorative justice. Again, not a lawyer though, as I said at the start of the video multiple times. But enough this. More meat and potatoes, something more gritty. Yeah. I'm a victim of, and I know people would say survivor and tell me, oh, no, say you're a survivor. After a few years, I can tell you I sure as heck do not feel that the word survivor applies to me. I'm gonna be blunt. I am a victim of non-consensual, full-on physically beaten down and battered and went home covered in bruises. And I'm still struggling with it every single day. And I say it in private. My voice was powerful. There's no other way to put it. And I genuinely mean it. I come from a world not many people are aware of, because honestly being gay is genuinely a minority experience. But when I say where I live, if you're tall, and he was very tall and good looking, and I'd easily say to this day he absolutely was an attractive man, probably still is. And if you're charming, or you can be charming, and he was, well, now you're going to be popular. You're going to be the darling of so many people. You are going to be everyone's friend. Everyone is going to quote unquote simp over you. And he was, in all ways, more powerful than me and had a legion of quote unquote simps. Me, a very quiet introvert, questioning what I wanted to do in my future and who I wanted to be. Yeah, I didn't stand a chance. Nope. The power differential was huge. And I mean, how to say it? For me, I've had an absolute ton of time just to sit there looking into things like, why? What would motivate someone to do that? Leaning back into my background as a published scientist, like a literally published scientist that studied the brain for literally over 5 years in university, what would draw someone to do that? What could I do to reverse what happened? What could I do to make it better? Heck, what could I even do to just make it so that I forgot what happened? And I'd still to this day take any option I could to make myself just lose my memory just for that year. If it was even that entire year, just get rid of what happened. Get rid of the face, get rid of the smell of the apartment, get rid of how everything looked. And that's the trick about trauma. Is that I can also remember that event far better than I can even remember some of my video topics from a week ago, or who I just talked to in Overwatch. And I'm not even joking about that. But just to cap this off before I move on to the next topic, if anyone was wondering what happened to him, he got away completely scot-free. Completely. I've heard apparently he has a house, he has a beautiful boyfriend, he has such a good life. And I think that he's like also started his own company again. Like I try and like know as little as I can, but he has also lots and lots of friends too, and he's completely moved on with his life. As for me, I'm that used empty can of pop that was thrown away with when all the goodness was drank out of it. And in the great words of my ex, I'm damaged goods, flat out. And those are, for the record, very separate people. I just have very great experience with relationships with men. And many people ask me why I plan to never date again, ever. Sorry, I swear that's water. But without getting into too many details on that specific event, because I need to move on to the actual content and point of this video. He went after that event and destroyed me. I have no proof of it other than the countless friends that I've seen since that event leave my life. To feel terribly unwelcomed at events, people physically come up to me in person at my university campus and tell me I was lucky for it to happen, and that I better shut up, and that I'm a liar, and that I'm trying to take away from other stories and all these things. And for me to even like go onto various forums and help websites, and for people to claim to know me and tell me that I'm lying and that I'm lucky, and like all these terrible things, these things that are almost unspeakable, yet I'm trying to speak on them because it's like I genuinely think that this story can help people. But that's the thing about the powerful versus the powerless. The powerful, he smashed me under his foot. No different than if he stomped on a tin pop can. I'm still wondering, genuinely wondering, if that event never happened, if I could even land a job in this city. And while I realize to some degree that could be a tinfoil hat theory, of course it could be some tinfoil hat theory, there were very powerful people in the software industry where I live who were very tight with him. Honestly, that's a question that haunts me right now as I genuinely question how I am going to feed myself in the coming months some days. But moving on, enough of that, because I know move on, y'all like a faster paced video, and I'm so sorry. You're wondering what this has to do with real ID and forms, and this is where I'm going to tie that in, because it's very, very tied together. A few things we're going to take out of the box piece by piece, because I genuinely feel I have a unique perspective on this situation, and I hope that people will listen to my perspective. Firstly, when it comes to my idea of my real name being plastered online, I have a crippling phobia to the point where I saw the talk about the real ID being linked to our accounts potentially going public, and I froze there. I just sat in front of my computer screen and completely blanked out. So like, I play a lot of Overwatch, I play a lot of Hearthstone, and my next video series, a part of it, is going to be me as a Final Fantasy 14 player trying to get back into World of Warcraft and what that's like, and it's gonna be pretty funny. It's actually pretty laid back. Like, this video is pretty intense. When we're talking about this topic, of course it's gonna be intense, but just thinking my real life name is attached to that character ID, so when I play like Anna in Overwatch and that my healing is deemed not good enough, now this Joe Blow can like bring up my little what do you call it, the battle tag, and just type in blah 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 and then number string, and then they can find my forum posts, and then they can find my real name, and then later I find like some message sent to my house address saying, oh, you're that son of a Anna player, and you're just so terrible, and I know where you live, and I'm gonna screw you, or something like that. And I mean, people are gonna be like, oh, that'll never happen. I mean, yeah, the possibility is there if this real ID goes through, because your profile, because I can open up a person's profile on Overwatch, and it's gonna say what their name is plus a number string. I can put that in Google, and like even Overwatch has like Overbuff and all these other websites that you can literally look up an entire person's play profile and history on a completely external third-party website. So yeah, real life name being tied to that is big and real. But moving on, it instills a genuine fear in me that I sat here wondering how I can really describe it, and the only way was really telling my story before to give the context of why this terrifies me. I don't want that man that I talked about earlier to even know I'm alive. I want him to think I'm dead. I want him to think that I was just in some obituary in the newspaper years ago, that I'm just dead. I want to be the furthest thing from him or his memory. When I tell you that he scares me to the very depths of my bones, I'm not joking. I'm genuinely terrified. Which, I'm gonna say, like, I was so scared and am still scared that many people could probably guess. Did I report it? No, I did not. And that's something that I thought I'd regret, but I don't. Because that event emotionally scarred me, and it was during the middle of final exams, and I was trying to transition my degrees over to software, because it happened right before final exams in December, like literally right before final exams. Like I literally had to like write an exam, not the next day, but like really close after. And the timing was really nice, right? And I have questioned how easy it would have been to fail out. It's like, would I have even gotten my degree? Would I even have started this career trajectory? But enough of that. I can't change the past, and years later, I do not regret that decision. I might literally have lost everything in the process. My research, my degrees, my floundering career, where I've had recruiters literally laugh in my face recently. I mean, it's so prestigious. I'm just joking. I'm just joking about that last line. Like, yeah, I don't regret it, though. So that moves on to my second point. Social justice sucks. Flat out, I hate social justice. It is a lie, and it makes me mad every time someone takes the moral high ground. When I tried to reach out for help from friends, from people online and connections, the so-called social justice that could be enacted on people who post their first real name and first real last name, it fell flat. No one cared about me or my story, and in fact, the more vulnerability I showed, the more people judged me and became mean and catty and cruel. So when I say I've thought about if I should or shouldn't even post this video because I'm scared of being trolled into oblivion, I've thought about it at least 20 or so times already. Social justice, in all hilarity, was a tool that my used against me in an attempt to silence me. Literally. So me, who is a genuine victim of it, was being told I was lying because I was jealous or it didn't work out with him, and so I was trying to be revengeful. And I'd hope a year of videos later showcases that really isn't my style. But he used, like, this narrative was being, like, pushed so hard that friends were dropping left, right, and center off of my Facebook, which was what I did use to keep track of a lot of friends. Text messages, like, friends were just leaving in droves. My community I was a part of in real life was like disappearing and shattering. So I was isolated and alienated, and to date, if I'm being blunt, I struggle to think of any gay friends I have. And I realized the intense irony of saying that with nearly 5k subscribers, but I don't think anyone realizes it until like they get a few thousand subscribers, that it's like it's really weird. I'm actually gonna move on from that, but it's different. But in terms of like actual genuine gay friends in game, even I have 3 maybe 4, but even that person's a stretch. And probably more out of convenience, if I'm being honest. Oops. Oh well, they're not gonna watch this video anyhow, so 3. Now in terms of real life gay friends, like I can pull up Discord, I can pull up Facebook, I can pull up whatever. 0. The big freaking goose egg. 0. In fact, the last gay friend I had still on Facebook removed me probably around December last year after he met up with me and realized I was still pretty impacted from the event, because like he was coming up to like console me and this and that, and removed me like shortly after. And for the record, he was like close friends with the man that me. Not joking. So it was like, social justice? No. It doesn't exist. It completely failed me, and in fact it was used against me to silence me and punish me. So as I've said before, probably has even stifled my real life career. It just basically to make me look like some unhinged, insane, revenge-seeking ex. And again, note through this entire video, I'm not giving you any details on who this person is. Revenge? I don't want revenge. How ridiculous. And also, given how many terrible relationships I've had, you'd sure expect a lot more stories of this than just this one guy, if that's the truth. So now I want to explore it from the angle of what could I have even gotten from justice if I seeked it out. And I mean total cancellation style, like for me to just go ham. So let's go off of some points of me going ham. So first off, oh my god, I'd cause financial instability. That'd be the first thing I'd do, because heck yeah, in the past I've dreamed about how he deserves this. First thing I'd do, especially since I'm living it now, I'd make a move back in with his parents. I'd make him question how he's gonna afford food. I'm gonna make him worried about he's gonna continue his subscription to World of Warcraft. Heck yes. Now next thing I'd do is I'd make him lose all his friends. Obviously, this entire social network of his. Again, I'd want him to feel as lonely and insignificant as he should. He's what he is. Scum. Terrible. Awful. Terrible human being. Able to do that to someone else? He deserves nothing, and should always feel bad and terrible and have no friends because he's a POS and deserves no love and no sympathy. And yes, that also does mean that he should lose his boyfriend, because obviously he doesn't deserve that. Third up, I'd like him to pay for the literally years of therapy bills, and at an average going rate of $200 a session where I live. And many weeks, oh my god, for months on end, I was going twice a week, every week. And then I was going for like once a week, like, oh my god, for years or something like that, like a long time. I could have, but if someone paid up all that, I could have a big down payment from all of that alone, if I added up like that. And now the ham comes off. While the third point stands out as unique, did anyone else notice the intense irony of the first two? Because I sure did, because that's my life. That's exactly what happened to me as the victim. Losing friends made me feel, or to make me feel small and pathetic, to be isolated and alienated from a community I once considered my own. There is an intense irony towards social justice, where the hammer of justice follows often the most powerful or those with the largest voice. To be powerless like me means that I was just another tin can to stomp on. So the question is, if you step on a tin pop can like me in a crowd of loud voices, will anyone hear you crush my hopes, dreams, and ability to move forward with a tiny crackle? So to that end, I'm forced to point 3. What would I even get from this? What would I get from this so-called justice? Because I've thought long and hard about this question. If today, at this very moment, if I had him dragged into court and convicted, what would change? Sure, I might get a few $1,000s on therapy bills, and would that help some financially? Absolutely. God knows, though, that the full amount would probably never come back to me. But that's money, and I want to be really clear. What I want goes way beyond money. I want safety. I want security. I want to wake up in the morning not covered in sweat from the night terrors or whatever. I want to be fine, and I want to feel fine. I don't want to have this little itch where I like, oh my god, I don't know why I'm feeling anxious today. What the heck's going on? I want my life back. And I want my friendships and my community that I cherished from back then back. And to be frank, nothing at this point could be done or said to take away the past few years of complete anguish, of the crippling cycles of agony and the rest. Let's say I did make him lose his job. What then? Is that going to do anything for me? No. What if I made him lose his friends? What then? Is that going to do anything for me either? No again. And sure, maybe let's explore that. Maybe if I did get revenge, it'd feel really good. But the issue is that's a fleeting feeling. In terms of the long-term gain, that'd do nothing. That feeling would disappear and nothing would come out of that. This man, he's still someone's son. He's still someone's baby boy, and he's still someone's best friend. He's still someone's love of their life. He probably has people come to him for help and love and advice. He's probably helped a friend out during their hardest night when the world is crumbling around them. He's probably won awards for some amazing things he's done. And will that ever take away what he did to me? Never. But that's the problem, and that's where the cycle of revenge starts. He did something wrong to me. Now if I did something wrong to him, to this man, who's the son of a mother, a lover of another, and a friend to many, now I'm the bad guy. Now I'm the one who has drawn back the curtain and bared my teeth and made him a victim. Now I've put on the black robes on myself, and I am the bad guy, and now it's time for my punishment. For me destroying the career of this son to a mother, for me destroying the ability for him to be financially independent with his boyfriend, for me to destroy the friendships and connections with his friends. Now I'm the bad guy. And that's a big part of why this entire notion of social justice is absolutely stupid. And why I don't get it, and I think it's so barbaric. We're going back to the times before the code of Hammurabi by doing such things. But even if we did follow an eye for an eye, as I said before, that achieves nothing. And this is why, through personal experience being victimized on one of the most disgusting and deplorable ways a human being can be, that I fully embrace restorative justice. In fact, more so than if I didn't, probably. But let's reel this all in. This long example captures my perspective in a way that I think would be impossible for others to truly know why I think Real ID is completely stupid. Why the entire notion that this is something good that we should value and want is completely undermining the entire point. Now, what I will say is that hopefully my experience and my life story can shed some light on why anonymity is so important to preserve. It gives a layer of protection to people like me who are genuinely trying to move on with our lives and are freaking scared. Although, should I say, will I stream with my face soon enough? I absolutely will. I'm still setting up. I have the equipment and fully plan to. In fact, I already did one. It was a terrible stream. But, yeah. But the difference is, that is my choice to do that, and on my platform, with a community that I truly love so dearly. And it is really hard to express how much I love you all without getting mushy and ew and gross. When I say I appreciate my community, I think the actual impact and sincerity of that is really lost in translation. But I can tell you, the last few months especially, that this community has kept me going when I've questioned if I could or would or should. In fact, I did quit for a period of time there, if you look even in my video history. honestly, I came back because the community means so much to me, and yeah. And that is the introduction to my last point that I want to end this video on. Communities transcend exact names. Communities transcend skin color, race, religion, creed, whatever else. Like, see, I will never, ever know the real names and real faces of everyone I've interacted with, of everyone who has messaged me in game, or has replied to Reddit thread, or posted a YouTube comment, or DM'd me on Discord. And that is one of the beautiful things about online games. For as much as people enjoy insulting gamers, it's one of our most pure forms of actual identity we have. Because ultimately, what are we? We are literally a neurochemical bag of cells, neurons and glial cells, where our personalities, our attitudes, our performance takes center stage, rather than, like, how to say it? It transcends race, it transcends religion, it transcends politics, height, weight, disabilities, and so much more. All of that is thrown out the window. So when I log into Final Fantasy XIV and I see a female Viera, I'm not seeing the person's name behind the screen or anything else. I'm just seeing this Viera Big Watermelons 9001 that's really good at DPSing that I'm like vibing with and like find like talking to them enjoyable. Or if I log into World of Warcraft, I'm seeing that gray male Valkyra Yiffenschniff like 5000, and like, dude's pretty cool to talk to. And so there is genuinely almost a beautiful thing in being relieved of worldly concerns when you log into an MMORPG. And when people claim that we should break down that barrier, no, I don't think that is a healthy thing, actually. And another thing is, no, I also don't think social justice exists for the reasons I said earlier in this video. I think social justice is going back to before the code of Hammurabi, to a culture of honor and causing cycles of hatred and unrest to spin at an alarming pace. Restoration is truly not being reached, nor does it seem to be even in sight of a lot of these events. So in other words, I think real ID is the dumbest thing I've heard of, and for the love of all that is good, don't make our information accessible. Please. Like, sometimes I'm a really bad Anna and I miss my shots, and I really don't want Super Noob Blaster 10,000 or NoobTube 9001 to like get my like real address because I played really poorly, and I really don't want those messages in my real life mail. Please, no.